Most people think emotional numbness feels empty. It doesn't. Feels normal. That's what makes it so dangerous. You still wake up. You still answer messages. You still go to work. You still laugh at the right moments. From the outside, nothing looks broken. But somewhere inside, your emotional world has quietly gone silent. Not because you stopped caring, because caring stopped feeling safe. The frightening part is that you rarely notice it while it's happening. You notice it later, when someone leaves, when someone dies, when the relationship finally ends, when the house is suddenly quiet, when you look at old photos and wonder why you couldn't feel what those moments deserved. Sometimes the greatest emotional tragedy isn't losing someone. It's realizing you emotionally left long before they did. Quietly, without even knowing. That's the hidden psychology behind feeling nothing until it's too late. And once you recognize it, you start seeing it everywhere. Not every emotional wound arrives with tears. Some arrive with silence. People often imagine trauma as a dramatic event, a betrayal, an accident, a devastating breakup. But emotional survival rarely looks dramatic. It looks efficient. Your mind slowly learns that feeling everything is exhausting. So it begins protecting you by asking you to feel less. Not forever, just enough to survive. Then survival becomes a lifestyle. You stop celebrating deeply because disappointment always seems close behind. You stop grieving fully because grief feels endless. You stop trusting excitement because experience taught you that happiness doesn't always stay. Over time, emotions stop disappearing. They stop reaching the surface. You aren't emotionless. Your emotions are simply trapped behind years of psychological protection. Protection that once saved you. Protection that now isolates you. Modern life quietly rewards this. Being emotionally composed is admired. Being constantly productive is respected. Being endlessly available is expected. Meanwhile, nobody notices the person who hasn't genuinely felt present in years. Social media makes it even easier. You can document your entire life without experiencing it. A vacation becomes content. A relationship becomes proof. A smile becomes performance. The internet taught people how to appear emotionally alive, not necessarily how to remain emotionally connected. That's the contradiction. You're visible, but internally disappearing. Slowly. The hardest part isn't pretending for other people. It's forgetting you're pretending at all. Some people don't realize they've become emotionally numb until someone genuinely loves them. Then panic appears. Not because love feels bad, because it feels unfamiliar. Real intimacy demands emotional presence. Presence feels dangerous to someone who survived by disconnecting. So they pull away. They delay replies. They convince themselves something feels wrong. They mistake emotional safety for boredom, and emotional unpredictability for chemistry. Not because they're broken, because their nervous system learned that unpredictability was normal. Peace feels suspicious. Chaos feels familiar. That changes relationships. People often think love ends because feelings disappear. Sometimes feelings never disappeared. The ability to access them did. Imagine carrying a locked room inside yourself. Every important emotion lives behind that door. Joy, grief, love, fear, hope. The room still exists. You just lost the key years ago, without noticing. Then something unexpected happens. Maybe your parent gets sick. Maybe your partner finally leaves. Maybe someone you always assumed would stay suddenly doesn't. The door cracks open. Everything you've avoided floods out at once. Years of sadness. Years of regret. Years of words you never said. That's why people often say, "I didn't realize how much they meant to me until they were gone." Sometimes love wasn't absent. Awareness was. Modern dating quietly amplifies this pattern. Swipe culture trains people to replace discomfort instead of understanding it. A difficult conversation feels unnecessary when another match is one swipe away. Conflict becomes inconvenience. Vulnerability becomes risk. People don't always leave because they stopped caring. Sometimes they leave because emotional closeness activates fears they never learned to name. The result is a generation constantly searching for emotional certainty. But certainty doesn't create intimacy. Presence does. And presence requires feeling. Even uncomfortable feelings. Especially uncomfortable feelings. Yet emotional convenience keeps winning. Replies become delayed to seem less invested. Affection becomes carefully measured. Honesty becomes strategically timed. Everyone fears looking like they care more. So everyone quietly cares alone. That's loneliness wearing modern clothes. The mind adapts in strange ways. If rejection happens enough times, you stop expecting acceptance. If vulnerability repeatedly ends in pain, you stop offering vulnerability. If emotional needs are consistently ignored, eventually you stop recognizing your own needs. That is emotional self-erasure. It doesn't happen overnight. It happens through thousands of tiny moments. Every time you said, "I'm fine," when you weren't. Every time you laughed instead of explaining. Every time you convinced yourself your feelings were too complicated to share. Every time you chose silence because conflict felt more dangerous than loneliness. None of those moments seemed life-changing. Together, they rewrote your emotional identity. That's why numbness feels confusing. You still care deeply. You just experience caring intellectually instead of emotionally. You know someone matters. You simply can't feel it fully. Until something forces you to. Usually too late. One of the cruelest psychological tricks is emotional postponement. I'll call them tomorrow. I'll apologize next week. I'll spend more time with them once life slows down. Life rarely slows down. People leave. Time moves. Conversations expire. The emotions waiting for the perfect moment eventually become regrets searching for explanations. Regret is often delayed feeling. Nothing more. Nothing less. People don't usually fear death as much as unfinished emotion. The words unsaid. The affection withheld. The forgiveness postponed. The hug that never happened. Those memories don't disappear. They echo. Long after opportunities do. There's another hidden behavior few people notice. Emotional monitoring. Instead of feeling emotions naturally, you begin observing yourself having them. You analyze every reaction. You question every attachment. You edit every expression. You become the narrator of your own life instead of its participant. That constant self-surveillance creates distance. Distance becomes numbness. Not because your emotions vanished, because your attention never stayed with them long enough. You were too busy managing yourself. Modern culture encourages this. Always optimize. Always improve. Always perform. Even emotions become projects. Instead of asking, "What am I feeling?" people ask, "How should I appear?" That question quietly disconnects people from themselves. Eventually, they become experts at emotional presentation and strangers to emotional experience. Some people spend years chasing excitement because they mistake intensity for aliveness. But intensity fades. Presence doesn't. The deepest emotional experiences are rarely dramatic. Maybe that's why old messages hurt. Old voice notes. Old birthdays. Old photos. Not because the past was perfect. Because you can finally feel what you couldn't feel while living it. The emotions arrive after the moment has already passed. That's the hidden cost of surviving for too long. You protect yourself from pain. But eventually, you protect yourself from life. The cruel irony is that emotional numbness isn't the absence of feeling. It's feeling delayed. The heart keeps recording everything. Even when the mind insists nothing matters. One day, something small breaks the illusion. A familiar song. An empty chair. A forgotten scent. A name you haven't heard in years. Suddenly, years of postponed emotion arrive without permission. And you realize something terrifying. You were never emotionally empty. You were emotionally waiting. The deepest human fear isn't always being abandoned. Sometimes it's discovering you were present for your own life, but emotionally absent. And by the time your heart finally catches up, the moment it wants to hold on to has already disappeared.